Hello and welcome to ELA Explained. In this video, we'll continue our discussion of archetypes. To review briefly, archetypes are symbols, themes, settings or character types that recur across cultures and eras, expressing universal aspects of human experience. In the previous video, we explored archetypal symbols. This time, we'll focus on archetypal themes. We'll look at two very common ones: fate versus free will, and redemption. Fate versus free will is one of the oldest themes in world literature. Our first example is the appointment in Samara, a retelling of an ancient Mesopotamian parable. A servant in Baghdad sees death in the marketplace. Death makes a frightening gesture, so the servant panics and flees, borrowing his master's horse to escape to Samara. Later, the master confronts Death, asking why she threatened his servant. Death replies, "I wasn't threatening him. I was just surprised to see him in Baghdad. I have an appointment with him tonight in Samara." This short parable perfectly illustrates how our choices can fulfill what's already predestined. The servant's decision to flee, an act of free will, ironically leads him straight to the fate he tried to avoid. The story reminds us that our freedom may be real, but limited by forces beyond our understanding, and our choices can be sincere and logical, but ultimately irrelevant in the face of destiny. Our next example is Sophocles' tragedy Oedipus Rex. Oedipus, Prince of Corinth, learns of a prophecy that he will kill his father and marry his mother. To escape his fate, he leaves his home unaware that his real parents are the king and queen of Thebes, who had abandoned him for the same reason. On his journey, Oedipus unknowingly kills his true father, King Laius, and later saves Thebes from the Sphinx. As a reward, he marries Queen Jocasta, his mother, and becomes king. Years later, a plague strikes Thebes. As Oedipus investigates, he discovers the horrifying truth. He has fulfilled the very prophecy he tried to avoid. Jocasta takes her life. Oedipus blinds himself in despair and leaves the city of Thebes. Oedipus Rex is one of the most powerful explorations of the theme fate versus free will in world literature. Despite everyone's efforts, Laius and Jocasta trying to kill the baby, Oedipus fleeing Corinth, the prophecy is fulfilled. Their actions, meant to defy fate, ironically become the very means by which fate is realized. Oedipus's tragedy lies not in weakness, but in his illusion of control. His intelligence and determination cannot overcome the divine order. Sophocles suggests that fate may be unchangeable, but dignity and acceptance in facing it still express human freedom. We'll return to Oedipus later when we discuss the theme of redemption. Our final example of the theme fate versus free will is from the tragedy Macbeth by William Shakespeare. We have already discussed the plot of the play in another video, but I'll still give a quick overview here. Macbeth, a loyal general, encounters three witches who prophesy that he will become king. Tempted by ambition and urged by his wife, Macbeth murders King Duncan and takes the throne. But power comes at a cost. Racked with guilt and paranoia, he descends into tyranny and madness, committing more crimes to protect his crown. In the end, Macbeth is killed in battle, and order is restored in Scotland. In Macbeth, fate presents the possibility of kingship, but free will determines the path. The witches never tell Macbeth to kill Duncan, they only plant the idea. His ambition and fear drive him to shape his own downfall. The tragedy lies in his misinterpretation of fate. He believes it guarantees success, but it merely reveals possibilities. Macbeth asks us, is it fate that destroys us, or the choices we make in response to it? Across the appointment in Samara, Oedipus Rex, and Macbeth, we see one archetypal truth. Humans live within a larger, predetermined order, and whether through fear, ignorance, or desire, our choices ultimately align with their destined path, revealing both the illusion of free will and the tragic wisdom that comes from recognizing our limits. The next archetypal theme is redemption, and our first example continues Oedipus's story in Oedipus at Colonus. Years after his fall, Oedipus is a blind wanderer accompanied only by his daughter Antigone. He arrives at Colonus near Athens and is offered sanctuary by King Theseus. There he learns that his death will bless the land that shelters him. His sons both seek his support in their struggle for Thebes, but Oedipus recognizes their moral corruption and, rejecting his sons, he finally accepts divine will. Guided by the gods, he dies peacefully, disappearing into the earth, his grave bringing protection to Athens. Archetypically, Oedipus at Colonus represents the journey from guilt to grace. In Oedipus Rex, he fights against fate. In Colonus, he accepts it. This acceptance is the first step toward redemption. The long years of exile serve as atonement. Oedipus's suffering strips him of pride and purifies his soul. Oedipus becomes a sacred figure. His death is not tragic but transcendent. If in Oedipus Rex his actions bring a curse to the city of Thebes, in Oedipus at Colonus he becomes a blessing to the city of Athens. Our next example is the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. The epic poem follows the fictional journey of Dante the Pilgrim through the afterlife. Dante, lost in a dark wood that symbolizes his moral confusion, embarks on a spiritual journey through hell, purgatory, and heaven. Guided by Virgil and then by Beatrice, he witnesses the punishment of sin, the purification of the repentant, and the eternal peace of the redeemed. By the end, Dante's soul is purified, and he beholds the vision of God, achieving enlightenment and reconciliation with the divine. The Divine Comedy mirrors the archetypal pattern of descent, transformation, and rebirth. Dante descends into darkness, ascends through purification, and finally unites with divine love. It's the archetype of the soul's redemption, from moral blindness to illumination. Our final example comes from British Romantic literature, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Coleridge. An old sailor stops a wedding guest to tell his haunting story. On a sea voyage, he impulsively kills an albatross, bringing a curse upon himself and his crew. When death and life and death appear, his crewmates perish, but the mariner lives on in torment. Alone and guilt-ridden, he suffers until, moved by compassion, he blesses the sea creatures he once despised. The curse is lifted. Saved but forever changed, he wanders the earth, retelling his story as a warning to others. The poem follows the archetypal cycle of sin, punishment, repentance, and renewal. The mariner's crime is his fall from grace. His suffering becomes his purgatory. His redemption comes through love and humility, recognizing the sacredness of all life. Coleridge shows that forgiveness requires transformation. Redemption here is both moral and spiritual rebirth. Across Oedipus at Colonus, the Divine Comedy, and the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, redemption is shown as a journey from sin and suffering towards spiritual renewal. In Oedipus at Colonus, peace comes through acceptance and humility. In the Divine Comedy, enlightenment comes through purification and divine grace. In the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, forgiveness comes through compassion and reverence for life. Together, they reflect a timeless archetype, redemption as transformation, a cycle of fall, suffering, and renewal that reflects humanity's enduring desire to restore harmony between the self and the sacred. That's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.